Lots going on in terms of U.S., Russia, Ukraine. Yesterday, the president sent that Truth Social post telling Putin to stop another attack fatal attack by Russia overnight on Ukraine. So he didn't stop. The president was defied. A general, 106C, a general, or 107 rather, a senior Russian general was killed this morning. Not really clear who did it. Russia's saying he was killed by an explosion, I believe,
in
car
Moscow.
bomb in Moscow. So, there's been all sorts of, there's been a running theme of how much capability the Ukrainians have of killing people in Russia, including in Moscow. So, for all we know, Putin killed him. I mean, we don't know who killed him, but that happened. The president did an interview with Time magazine, and after being relatively tough on Putin yesterday, he does this interview, and he said two things that are not the least bit surprising, but will be vexing to those who are concerned about the contours of the deal the United States is trying to broker and about the president's often spouting pro-Putin propaganda. Here's what he said to Time magazine. I think what caused the war to start was when they started talking about joining NATO, the president said, meaning blaming Ukraine for the war and giving the reason, the same thing the Russians say. The negotiated peace he is pursuing would hand Vladimir Putin some 20% of the Ukrainian territory. Crimea will stay with Russia, the president said. In the context of the long-running, complete bafflement many of us have about why the president frequently says things that are pro-Putin, why does he say to Time magazine, the war started because Ukraine talked about joining NATO? Why does he say that?
The only thing that I can gather is that he wants to be, that his view in going into a negotiation is that if you piss off the other person, they're never going to want to strike a deal with you. So let me just, so the answer is, you're asking me to explain it. I'm not trying
but I just say, I'm so interested in hearing from you on this because you're so anti-Putin. Like you have no love lost for
Correct.
Putin. Okay. So he could say, which is true, if you look at the history since the Cold War ended, Russia has felt threatened by the enlargement of the NATO perimeter around it. And it's understandable from the point of view of the Russian leaders that they would be worried about NATO expansion. And we can understand their point of view. But to say the war started because of Ukraine's provocation is an injustice to history at a time when he's supposed to be an honest broker. So you can say sympathetic things to Russian, but he's spouting, if you'll pardon the expression, a big lie that is Putin's justification for killing children and innocent people in a country he invaded, whose international borders he violated. Why would he say now, forget ever, why would he say now that? I understand the concept of wanting to be an honest broker, but why say something so fundamentally false that's an offense to truth?
Look, I can't explain. You guys, you know what I think about Putin, and you know how I mean, I'm pretty strong on how this war started. So asking me to explain why somebody believes something that I don't share is not exactly.
Well, but you know
But
Trump.
what I'm saying, so
What's
like
in
I
it for
said,
Trump?
the only explanation that I can give you
Yeah.
is that he believes that in order to be seen as a fair broker, that he throws out this lifeline to Putin to say, see, I'm not entirely with Zelensky on how this thing started either. So trust me as the guy that's trying to solve this. That's the only way I can explain it, Mark. Because again,
Okay.
I'm not. I
Understood.
think if you're asking why, like I said, I agree with you. I think you can say, look, Putin's the guy who did this, but I believe in a negotiated settlement. Therefore, I'm willing to, to your point, many people would argue that ever sitting down with Putin is an offense, right?
Correct.
So
But
therefore,
but that's less offensive than just lying about the
no.
fundamental.
So I get that. What I'm saying is, if this was me still advising the president, I could say, Mr. President, you could say that you don't agree with him, that they started this, but we want this, and here's how to do it, and still be seen as a guy who can bring peace.
Hey, want to be part of the two-way community all the time? Hit the subscribe button. Great video clips like this, plus conversations like no other, full episodes and more, always available on this channel. You got to hit subscribe to never miss a thing.